had such an instant rapport. And as soon as it was decided that I would do it, we got together and met and talked, and she told me a lot of her.
Fan of Clint Eastwood or Sondra Locke, you will definitely never forget the more than a decade-long relationship of this talented man and beautiful woman couple. However, have you ever wondered why, after being together for so long, they never mentioned getting married? Why did Clint never think of marrying Sondra? The surprising and intensely personal story of their relationship is truly a news treasure worth curious about, isn't it? After a period of secrecy, Eastwood is now sharing some details about their private life. We are finally about to quench our thirst for news, so absolutely don't miss this video if you don't want to regret it. We'll start with the shocking revelations. It will make you unable to take your eyes off this video. Where to start? Every relationship seems to start from the first meeting, so I think we'll start there too. At a get-together arranged by their mutual back in 1972, Clint Eastwood crossed paths with Joe Hyams on the Universal Studios lot. It was there he met and fell for actress Sondra Locke. She had a similar outlook on life, having wed for social and financial reasons before, all the while having a series of private relationships. Their story took a turn in October 1975, when Eastwood and Locke decided to share their lives while filming The Outlaw Josie Wales in Page, Arizona. Locke recalled how Eastwood had mentioned his relationship with Margaret Johnson wasn't going well before. Locke spilled the beans in her autobiography, revealing Eastwood's surprising confession. He admitted to never having been truly in love before, and being unfaithful in past relationships. He poured out his affection in a song he penned, "She Made Me Monogamous." Locke was deeply touched and felt secure in his love thereafter, never doubting his loyalty. After wrapping up filming for Joey, Locke moved to Sherman Oaks' residence in Pebble Beach. It was where Eastwood and Margaret Johnson had once lived together. Margaret had stayed on after their split, making it her permanent home. But Locke couldn't shake the feeling that it would always belong to Maggie in her heart. Back in 1953, Clint Eastwood tied the knot with Margaret Neville Johnson. Margaret started as a secretary but later switched gears, becoming a fitness instructor. Their love story sparked in May when they were set up on a blind date. During his time with Johnson, Eastwood had a short fling that resulted in the birth of their daughter, Lori, in 1994. Lori was then adopted by Clyde and Helen Warren, a couple living in Seattle. While married to Maggie Johnson, Eastwood had several affairs which Johnson reportedly tolerated. One of these affairs was with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis, which resulted in the birth of a daughter, Kimber. Eastwood's relationship with Tunis lasted from 1959 to 1973. Johnson and Eastwood divorced in 1984. Johnson and Eastwood had 2 children during their marriage, Kyle and Allison. Eastwood also had children outside of his marriage. Johnson was reportedly aware of and accepting of the extramarital affairs, being plagued by the idea that Eastwood's wife once lived in the same house she was staying in. Locke told him she can't live there anymore. That led them to move to Bel Air. They purchased a dilapidated property that underwent extensive renovations for 3 years. During this period of renovation, the couple divided their time between their homes in Tiburon, California, Sun Valley, Idaho, and the Rising River Ranch, which Clint Eastwood had purchased from Bing Crosby's estate. Before we continue on the affair between Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke and the surprising revelations that were made, let's look at their rise to fame. Clint Eastwood, also known as Clinton Eastwood Jr., was born in San Francisco on May 31, 1930. His parents were Clint S.R. and Ruth, and he had a younger sister named Jean. Times were tough during the Great Depression, so the family moved around California before settling in Piedmont. Clint went to high school in Piedmont and Oakland, and he graduated in 1949. After high school, Clint took on all sorts of jobs like baling hay, logging, driving trucks, and even working in a steel furnace. Then, in 1950, he joined the U.S. Army and was stationed at Fort Ord in Monterey, California. While there, he taught people how to swim. In 1953, after leaving the military, Clint Eastwood headed to Los Angeles and signed up for classes at Los Angeles City College. While studying, he worked part-time at a gas station. During this period, he caught the eye of Universal Studios, despite having little acting experience. Impressed by his natural charm, Universal Studios offered Eastwood a contract. He started with small roles in movies like Revenge of the Creature and Francis in the Navy, both in 1955. Then, in 1958, everything changed for Clint Eastwood when he scored a lead role in the TV Western series Rawhide. Meanwhile, on May 28, 1944, Sandra Louise Smith was born to Raymond Smith, a New York City native in the military, and Pauline Bain, who worked at a pencil factory in Huntsville, Alabama. Her parents split up before she was born. Sandra's life took a turn when her mom got remarried in 1948, and she took on the last name Locke. Growing up, she had to shoulder adult responsibilities from a young age, like working part-time at just 16, owning a car, and even having her telephone in her room. Although she was raised with Baptist beliefs, she stopped going to church as she got older. In her 20s, Sandra decided to tweak the spelling of her first name to Sandra to steer clear of being called Sandy. Back in her high school days at Shelbyville High School in Tennessee, she shone brightly both academically and socially. After graduating, she landed a job in the promotional department at WSMTV in Nashville, all the while dipping her toes into the world of modeling for the Tennessean newspaper. Despite her charm, Sandra didn't catch the eye of the popular guys in school as a potential date. Her first romantic fling, as remembered by the locals, was with Fred Thomas Jones, the son of a carpenter. Around 1963, Locke cut ties with her family. She felt that keeping up shallow relationships wasn't worth it. She never knew her real dad. When her mom passed away in 1997 and her stepdad in 2007, she didn't go to their funerals. Donald, Locke's stepbrother, blamed Gordon Anderson for the family split. Anderson was Locke's best friend and later her husband. Donald thought Anderson had a big influence on Locke. Locke worked different jobs. She handled accounts for Tyson Foods and did secretarial work at a real estate office. She lived in Southwater Apartments in Gallatin, a town many commuters liked. One day, she looked at a picture of herself playing in the snow. She started dreaming of being an actress. In July 1967, Locke tried out for a part in a movie based on a book by Carson McCullers. She competed with lots of actresses from the South and New York. The movie starred Alan Arkin. Before her first tryout in Birmingham, Locke's fiancé, Gordon Anderson, gave her a big makeover. He changed her look a lot. He made her chest look flatter, lightened her eyebrows, and styled her hair, makeup, and clothes to make her seem younger and more innocent. Locke lied about her age by saying she was younger by 6 years. She kept up this lie throughout her career, and even in her public life. After trying out in New Orleans and Manhattan, the person in charge of picking actors, Marion Doherty, thought Locke was a good fit for the role. They finished filming the movie in the fall of 1967. Following The Triumph of the Heart as a Lonely Hunter, the actress delved into several movie projects. She took on roles in Cover Me Babe alongside Robert Forster, the suspenseful Escher reflection of Fear with Robert Shaw, and the unforgettable horror flick Willard. Later on, she made the switch to television, gracing popular shows like Kung Fu and Planet of the Apes, solidifying her status as a dynamic and lasting presence on TV screens. Her relationship with Clint Eastwood played a pivotal role in shaping her life and career. It all began with their collaboration on the classic Western film The Outlaw Josie Wales in 1976. Their bond profoundly influenced her journey, but it also marked the end of her career path. In 1997, they co-starred in The Gauntlet. While working on the film, Eastwood and Locke's romantic involvement became public knowledge. This stirred controversy because both were married at the time, Eastwood to Johnson and Locke to Jordan Anderson. During their time living together, Locke complained to Eastwood about discomfort during intimacy caused by her IUD. He insisted she remove it. At first, Locke hesitated as she didn't want to switch to birth control pills due to their risks outweighing the benefits. Eventually, she consulted a doctor who taught her about tracking her menstrual cycle, although this method isn't always foolproof. In the late 1970s, Locke had to undergo 2 abortions. The second one was especially tough for her. Looking back, she regretted the decision, believing the child would have been exceptional, inheriting qualities from both her and her partner. Although they never met face-to-face, Margaret Johnson openly disliked Locke. Locke had imposed strict rules limiting Johnson's interactions with the children. Johnson recalled a time when she visited Clint's property to see a newborn deer. After that visit, Locke banned her from the premises permanently and even prohibited her from contacting the household by phone. Margaret Johnson decided to end her marriage with Locke when she noticed he didn't seem to care about her anymore. By late 1978, Margaret understood that Clint Eastwood's relationship with her was different from his past ones. She realized he was more committed to Locke. So she hired a lawyer to start the process of separating legally from Eastwood. Even though Margaret and Clint were separated, they didn't officially file for divorce until May 18, 1984. The divorce was finalized on November 19th. Margaret got a big sum of money, estimated to be between $25 and $30 million. Sondra didn't want to divorce her husband, Anderson. Anderson was a sculptor and used to be an actor. He was gay and lived with his boyfriend John McKee in a house in West Hollywood. Clint Eastwood bought that house. According to Locke, the union between her and Anderson was solely based on practical reasons and never involved intimate relations. Locke stated, "I genuinely believe that Clint and I did not require a legal document to confirm our mutual commitment." Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke collaborated on multiple films after their initial reunion, The Gauntlet. These films included Every Which Way But Loose, Bronco Billy, Any Which Way You Can, and Sudden Impact. Fritz Maines, Eastwood's former associate, claims that Eastwood was deeply devoted to Locke from 1976 to at least 1980. However, Eastwood also maintained discreet maintenance relationships with others, such as Tunis, while with Locke. According to Fritz Maines, Eastwood's love for Lee was all-encompassing and unwavering. The relationship between Eastwood and Locke deteriorated when Locke opted to stay wedded to Anderson after Eastwood ended his marriage with Johnson. Locke stated that she would have left Anderson had Eastwood agreed to the couple's counseling, but he declined. Despite the love Clint claimed he had for Locke, he went back to his former habit of womanizing. Was Locke not worth all his love? In the early 1980s, biographer McGilligan states that Clint Eastwood resumed his pattern of extramarital affairs. He became romantically involved with story analyst Megan Rose, actress Jamie Rose, animal rights advocate Jane Brolin, and Jocelyn Reeves, a flight attendant he allegedly met at his restaurant, the Hog's Breath Inn. During his relationship with Locke, Eastwood fathered 2 children with Reeves while he told her to abort twice. Eastwood's affair with Reeves was not reported anywhere until an exposed article was published in the Star tabloid in 1990. That's when she found out. Over their 14-year relationship as an unmarried couple, Locke and Eastwood lived in 7 different houses and bought 4 of them, including a vacation home in Idaho and the Rising River Ranch close to Cassell. Then it happened. After 14 years of being together, Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke's relationship ended in a bitter breakup in April 1989. The legal battle that ensued after their split lasted for 10 years. Locke initiated legal action. She sued him for palimony after, without her knowledge, altering the locks of their residence and relocating her belongings to a storage facility while she was engaged in filming her second directorial project, Impulse. In her official complaint, she outlined how she was evicted from their home. Her lawsuit alleged that Eastwood caused her emotional distress and violated a contractual agreement. Locke sought to retain ownership of their Bel Air mansion in Hollywood Hills property during the legal dispute. Additionally, she disclosed in her declaration that she had undergone 2 abortions and a tubal ligation. During the trial, Eastwood diminished the closeness of their relationship. Initially referring to Locke as a roommate, he swiftly corrected himself, describing her as a part-time roommate instead. Bill Brown, the publisher of the local newspaper and a golfing companion of Clint Eastwood, revealed that despite public conflicts, Eastwood had recently confided in him that Sondra was the love of his life. Donald, Locke's half-brother who wasn't close to her, informed the Tennessean that Eastwood still had deep feelings for Locke, but was unable to withstand her unhealthy attachment to her husband, Gordon Anderson. What led to their disastrous breakup? Is it his affairs or her obsession with her husband, Gordon Anderson? Locke asked Gordon Anderson to give up any legal claims to her possessions, which he was entitled to as her spouse before Eastwood could fabricate the truth about their marriage. Gordon, who loved her very much and trusted her completely, gave her ownership of everything. While the proceedings were ongoing, Locke was approached by an investigative journalist who revealed Eastwood's secret family. The journalist had verified the existence of this other family through a nurse in the delivery room, who confirmed that Clint Eastwood was their father. The journalist offered to provide Locke with copies of the birth certificates and a photograph of one of Eastwood's daughters, Jacqueline. She was devastated to know that 2 babies had been born during the first 3 years of their relationship, and they weren't hers. It took her 20 years to find out. Locke's case continued, and during this time she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which weakened her determination to pursue the case. In November 1990, she withdrew her lawsuit in exchange for a settlement that included a lump sum, monthly payments from Eastwood, and a $1.5 million directing contract with Warner Brothers. However, in 1995, Locke became convinced that the settlement was fraudulent and filed a lawsuit for fraud against Eastwood. Locke alleged that the project development deal with Warner Brothers was a ploy to get her to withdraw her palimony lawsuit. She claimed that Eastwood intentionally funded the deal to keep her career stagnant. The case was eventually settled out of court in September 1996. Sondra Locke filed a lawsuit against Warner Brothers Studios, alleging that the studio colluded with Clint Eastwood to damage her reputation as a film director. The lawsuit was eventually resolved out of court too. But how was Sondra Locke's life after the breakup? When she had breast cancer, she underwent a double mastectomy at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and also chemotherapy. During this period, she met Scott Canine, a medical intern born in Long Beach, California on September 10, 1961, who was tasked with conducting her post-surgery evaluation. The two later began a romantic relationship. Despite a 17-year age gap and the fact that Locke was only 3 years younger than his mother, the couple quickly publicized their relationship. They were seen dining at the popular paparazzi spot Spago on one of their early dates in November 1990. In 2001, Locke bought a secluded 6-bedroom mansion in the Hollywood Hills, which became her home for the rest of her life. She and Canine broke up, but no one knew because she was no longer in the public eye. However, after their breakup, Clint Eastwood went on to have the time of his life. After parting with Locke, Eastwood briefly dated Barbra Streisand. That same year, he had relationships with Marissa Barison, his co-star in White Hunter Blackheart, Carmel Mayer Jean Grace, actress Dani Crane, and model Barbara Minty, who was married to McQueen but widowed at the time. Clint Eastwood embarked on a long-term relationship with Frances Fisher, an actress he met on the set of Pink Cadillac in 1988. They kept their romance private for the first 2 years, maintaining an open and non-exclusive arrangement. However, they eventually made their relationship public in late 1990. Eastwood and Frances featured in Unforgiven and had a daughter named Francesca on August 7, 1993, on the same day as the film's release. Notably, this was the first time Eastwood was present for the birth of one of his children. However, he had instructed Fisher to conceal her pregnancy until the final 3 months because he did not want it to overshadow his Oscar campaign. Even though the couple was legally allowed to marry, they chose not to. Around a month before their daughter's birth, Eastwood learned that a 39-year-old woman from Kent, Washington, had investigated her adoption and determined that Eastwood was her biological father. Eastwood remained silent about the allegations. Their relationship was further strained when Fisher learned, not from Eastwood, that he had another child with Jocelyn Reeves. The couple separated in January 1995. That was not all. While Fisher was still living with Eastwood, he allegedly started a relationship with Dina Ruiz, who was 35 years younger than him. The two had initially met when she interviewed him for a news story in March 1993. It's uncertain when Eastwood and Ruiz's romantic relationship began. However, in February 1995, Eastwood attended 2 major golf tournaments with Ruiz, despite not publicly acknowledging his split from Fisher. Clint Eastwood and his partner tied the knot on March 31st. The ceremony took place at a private home on the Shadow Creek Golf Course in Las Vegas, and Eastwood surprised his partner with the event. This marriage is noteworthy as it is Eastwood's second official union, despite having several long-term relationships throughout his life. In late August 2013, Dina Eastwood publicly revealed that she and her husband had been living apart for a while. Several months later, she initiated divorce proceedings, withdrawing her earlier request for legal separation. The reason given for the divorce was irreconcilable differences. After breaking up with Ruiz, Eastwood has been seen in public with photographer Erica Tomlinson Fisher, who is 41 years younger, and restaurant hostess Christina Sandera, who is 33 years younger. Eastwood and Sandera announced their relationship publicly at the 87th Academy Awards in February 2015. Eastwood has been known to be in relationships that led to having children, except for Sondra Locke. Nobody knows why he never wanted a child with Sondra Locke, and that's still a mystery. The alleged children of Eastwood keep popping up on the internet space once in a while. Those closest to Clint believe there might be more hidden families in his personal life. The 1999 UK release of Clint the Life and Legend became the first publication to mention Laurie's existence, but her identity and details were withheld. It wasn't until she revealed herself to photographers at the December 2018 premiere of The Mule that media outlets officially knew who she was. Some sources, such as a website that no longer exists, created by his cousin Steve in 2006, mention another child named Leslie, born on February 13, 1959, and believed to be the daughter of Bob Marley's mother, Rosina Mary Glenn. Clint Eastwood has remained secretive about allegations of additional children outside his known family, The extent of his fatherhood is unknown, with sources speculating about the number of children and their mothers. In recent years, independent filmmaker Jake C. Young sparked rumors of a possible connection to the famous actor Clint Eastwood due to their striking similarity. Speculation about Eastwood's unacknowledged children and potential family ties to Young arose as a result. However, Young has remained silent regarding these allegations and has not publicly confirmed or denied any relationship with Eastwood. In a 1997 interview on 60 Minutes, Steve Croft inquired about Eastwood's number of children. Eastwood's response, "I have a few," lacked specific details. But things weren't going too well for Locke. In 2015, after 25 years without noticeable symptoms, Locke's cancer reappeared and spread to her bones. On November 3, 2018, Locke passed away at the age of 74 in her Los Angeles residence due to cardiac arrest caused by complications from breast and bone cancer. Locke's passing was initially not disclosed until December 13th. Radar Online revealed this information on the eve of Eastwood's film The Mule when it was premiering in theaters across the country, citing the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health as their source. Despite the passage of 6 weeks since her death, it remains unclear why the information about Locke's death remained undisclosed. Efforts to reach Eastwood proved unsuccessful. A spokesperson for Locke also declined to comment on her death. The secrecy surrounding the situation was such that basic details were initially unavailable. Even a report of an immediate list of survivors was kept secret. Locke's passing went largely unnoticed by the media, except for a brief mention during ABC's World News Tonight. Eastwood, along with Locke's former partners, friends, and family, remained silent on the matter. Despite being active on social media, co-stars Richard Dreyfuss, Cicely Tyson, Louis Anderson, Sally Kellerman, Stacy Keach, and Ted Neely remained silent on the matter. Locke's omission from the memoriam segment of the 91st Academy Awards was also noticed, which aired almost 4 months after her passing. Her body was cremated on November 9th at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park and Mortuary, and the ashes were given to her husband, Gordon Anderson. Locke left Anderson about $20 million, and she had been providing for him financially for a long time. The love story of Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke is one that got media attention during the period it lasted. Most people term it the good, bad, and ugly. Starting from the fairy love story to the drastic legal battles, it didn't stop them from pursuing their careers and achieving success. There are many opinions about their relationship, including people claiming that Clint Eastwood is the reason Sondra Locke's career declined. The reality is that Sondra Locke had a promising debut with The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, but she's really not a good actress, and before she dated Clint Eastwood, she was in a bad mood. Limbo. Her relationship with Eastwood brought her various film roles: The Gauntlet, Sudden Impact, Bronco Billy, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and many others. But she only worked with Eastwood. She didn't really try to work with other directors. At age 50, when she and Eastwood separated, she attempted to become a director but failed when Ratboy and Impulse were criticized. Back then, it was very difficult for female directors to get the green light for their projects. Imagine someone whose films were panned by critics and was mostly known as Clint Eastwood's leading lady, and critics often singled out Locke as the weak link in most of those films. What is your opinion on this? Is Clint Eastwood a stone in the way of Locke's career? Please leave a comment sharing your views below this video. We welcome everyone's opinions. Before leaving, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive